Yes, the car buying crisis is real and it's alive and well. Yes, since December 2022, we've coincidentally seen the average new car price go down about 5.4%. But also in the last 3 years, we've actually seen a climb in the number of transactions. Right, about 15.5% increase since the same time 3 years ago. We've also seen incentives climb. $3,100 incentives seems to be roughly the average in this last little stretch. And sure, while there's some great good luck stories, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Jaguar, and even Alfa Romeo are brands that you're able to get a lot of great deals on. There's a lot of inventory out there, and there's a lot of great incentives, opportunities, selection, and you have a better chance on getting a great deal on those brands. Why? Well, likely because they've got at least double the amount of days supply over a lot of the other manufacturers. But the not such good luck story are brands like Toyota, Honda, Lexus, brands that are clearly more enjoyed because of their quality, their reliability, and people trust them. There's obviously more going on behind the scenes. This isn't just all coincidence. And so brands like the Jeeps and the Rams, we've always seen an excess abundance of vehicles. They were trying to get ahead of that whole situation where there was a shortage, then they overloaded, and now they had this flood in the market, and specifically by a brand that is the third or the lower number of vehicles sold. Specifically, Ram doesn't sell as many vehicles as Ford or GM or Chevy. And they overdid it. And then, of course, they all cranked up their prices. And it was a little insult to injury and a little poke in the eye for a lot of these people and the consumers that were looking for vehicles. We've seen price hikes, 30, 40, 50% in the last 3 years. Of course, couple that down with interest rate hikes that we've seen over and over, and they've stabilized and we haven't been given a break. Inflation's been climbing. People can't eat. They don't have enough. They're actually having to make a decision whether they eat this or eat that, but not both. People are making hard decisions. People are starving. Trying to keep a roof over the head. There are people living under bridges. That's real. We see it all over, and it's growing. Tent cities everywhere, in every major city is expanding to an alarming rate. This cost of living crisis is real. And yes, while there are people in fact buying new vehicles, you look around. When I'm out driving around, I see lots of people driving in their brand new vehicles, SUVs, trucks, and cars. Actually, not that many. If we're being honest, I had made a personal note, a mental note, the last few days as I've been driving around out in public, and I notice there actually aren't all that many late model, current generation vehicles that you see on the road. You see a brand new Chevy truck driving by, nice. But then you see probably 20 vehicles, old clapped out jalopies. Then you might see a nice updated late model BMW SUV. But the reality is people just don't have the money, and literally cars are not selling, except for certain brands, and I've already spoke about those. But the fact that they have lower inventory is a way to artificially, how can I say this, manipulate their own marketplace. They know they have a product that's sought after. They know they could fill the lots. They know they could probably sell every vehicle times 2. But they don't necessarily play that game. And Toyota has been one of these manufacturers that sort of feed a slow feed. They know that people are going to order it, put their deposit, but it also commands a higher dollar. So they don't have to push this volume of vehicles. They don't have to concern themselves with quality control issues, because as soon as you start ramping up, you start pushing more vehicles through the system, there's challenges with glitches, parts not getting put on. When people are rushed, they make mistakes. And so Toyota has kept the reputation of quality, but they've also done it at the expense of the buyer, not being able to go out there and selectively pick out, one of 40 different Toyota Camrys or one of 52 different RAV4s that are on a lot of different colors and schemes. You can't find that. That's not available in the market. And they're artificially holding their prices high. And they're even saying that their shortages are causing them to not necessarily respond to the market, not necessarily step up to the game with big incentives like the Rams and the Jaguars and the Range Rovers and the Alfa Romeos. And so what we're having is a marketplace where there's still manufacturers that, would you believe it, are literally charging these extra fees still. Market adjustment fees, dealer adjustment fees. I've got a recent story where Cadillac Escalade Sport Limited. This vehicle was normally MSRP stickered at $120,000 and a little bit of change. And this dealership literally marked on an extra $20K. And this just happened. People are still paying market adjustment fees. I can't believe this is happening. Who knew Cadillac, a GM product, would be in a situation where they could continually command 20 or 30% above sticker? I never thought I would be in a position like that to even see this. Of course, the Corvette C8, they've been staging that. It's been very strategic, but they've been selling like hotcakes. The C8 Corvette, they started with the Stingray, the Z06, now they're moving into the E-Ray and all these other widgets. And consumers are lathering, sucking it all up like sponges. And because there's still these hot spots in the market, prices are still very volatile in certain areas. And again, some vehicles are selling like hotcakes and other vehicles aren't as well. So it's not like a general market analysis. Things are changing. What we're finding are overall truck prices have slumped of all manufacturers. Now with that said, GM and Chevy lead the charge now collectively for full-size pickup trucks, especially on the retail side. Not so much necessarily on the the selling to rental companies or fleet vehicles, but certainly to the retail market. But they're a bit of an anomaly because the rest of the truck market is slumped. And this is going on in both the US and Canada. Canada even harder, taking a bigger hit. Even more vehicles, or even less vehicles are being sold, if I can say that. On the US side, we're seeing Chevy trucks selling on an upslide. On the Canadian side, they're actually down on sales. So it's clearly a sign that the market is still all over the place. And while some companies are offering huge incentives, other companies aren't. And so brands like Toyota and their executives are literally advertising saying, because they're running so lean, because they've only got roughly on average of 13 days supply, that you're not likely to get a good deal there. And we know that. Toyota, Lexus, Honda generally are not providing huge incentives. And for the one-offs that are, it's still not a big incentive like you're finding with some of the others, where you can find amazing deals in some cases, even though they're grossly overpriced. And there's definitely a case to be made for the fact that a vehicle like a Ram isn't worth half of what's being charged for. The fact remains is they're charging or they're discounting tremendously the amount that you're seeing on the price of brand new Rams, Jeeps, Fiats, Alfa Romeos. All those vehicles are taking a hit. Even Volvos have an excess inventory. So there's certainly some great opportunities. One would argue this is a buyer's market. But that kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for a Dodge Ram, possibly a Jeep Wrangler, you might have more bargaining power. It doesn't mean the vehicle is still worth what the reduced value is. You have to determine that for yourself. And we'll get into that in future videos. But there are opportunities there. And there are opportunities to save some big money. The used car market is definitely, we're building up inventory. The late model used vehicles, they seems to fluctuate. To get a nice CPO warranty vehicle still holds a strong value because insurance companies like them. Of course, they're also liked by the banks. Banks see a little more credibility behind a certified pre-owned vehicle versus a generic older vehicle. But if you have the cash to buy your $12,000 car, that's the sweet spot. Because that's the market. The $10,000 to $20,000 cars are the ones that are holding the strongest value. So if you're looking for a great deal, yes, there are great deals to be had on the basically new and used market. But you have to be selective. And you have to also understand that there's still some hot cars. And those hot vehicles out there are still going to command the top dollar. And I see the comments in my comment section where some people, call me out and say, well, they still want X amount and they're not moving on these vehicles. And that's entirely true. That's happening. But that's happening in pockets because some vehicles are showing great, potential for getting amazing deals. Again, Rams and Jeeps, Fiats. And yet others, not so much. Toyota, try to get yourself a hybrid RAV4. Try to get yourself even a Prius Prime. Vehicles like that are highly sought after. And they're very difficult to get your hands on. And as a result, Toyota's kind of charging what they want. Now, are they overcharging? Are we seeing big market adjustment fees on Toyotas? Not really. but we are seeing full sticker. And most people come out of a negotiation with a Toyota dealer thinking, boy, I got burned. I wasn't even able to get $1 off of that. That's right. Because they don't have much inventory and they use that as bargaining chips. Whereas vehicles like Ram, absolutely, they have not a pot to whiz in because they have so much inventory. They're already slicing their prices off and they can't sell what they've got. We've seen this. I've showed you this in other videos where we still see new old stock 22 model years kicking around. Lots of 23s where they're really highly incentivizing, and now they're even incentivizing 24s. And we got to remember, as we roll into the end of the year, we're going to start seeing 25s right away. So things are grim for certain manufacturers, but others are doing well. Ford, on the other hand, overall ICE cars are going down. Even their full-size pickup trucks have seen a slight slide. But they're making it up a little bit on the sales of their Mavericks because it's a hybrid, lower cost. And even Ford's getting on the wagon of trying to provide more hybrid vehicle powertrains to their lineup. The F-150 hybrids, they're looking at that, and people are getting on board. We know the Lightning hasn't been selling, but we also know the Ford Mustang Mach-E hasn't been selling up until they started heavily incentivizing. And it's really about money makes the world go round, and so at the end of the day, the more that these dealers realize if they're not selling, they've got to incentivize. And it's those dealers that we're seeing incentives at, like the Dodge, the Rams, those are heavy indicators that they're not selling. That's a response. That's the response to the trigger. The trigger is, okay, we're not selling. The response is lower prices. So when we're seeing the lower prices or the much bigger inventory, that's a sign that they're not selling. And those are the opportunities that you can have as a buyer. So if you're thinking to go buy out the new C8 Corvette and get yourself a smoking deal and get 10 grand off sticker, that's not happening. But if you think you can get 10 grand off a new garden variety middle of the road Dodge Ram, you betcha, you sure can. And so the cost of living is another big impact as to how the fact people can actually buy or not buy. I mean, while we've seen inflation slowly drop since the middle of 2022, we've actually seen a drop of 3 to 4% in the overall baseline inflation rate. But at the same token, we've seen other increases. Insurance costs, cost of driving a vehicle. Gas prices have been up and down, but insurance has been on a steady upswing. And since 2022, we see about a 15, almost 20% increase in the average insurance costs. Now, if you're driving an expensive electric vehicle or an expensive pickup truck or a late model sports car, insurance costs are naturally going to be higher and it's going to hit you a lot harder. So that's going to start slightly hamper people that are motivated to buy those high-end vehicles. Insurance prices are going up. A lot of people are making a decision. Maybe I can buy my 2005 or keep my old 2005 Dodge driving or my old 2008 Ford. Maybe I just keep the wheels going, turning round and round, fix it as I need to, put basic liability on it, and we'll call it a day. I'm not worried about loading up with insurance, and I'm isolating myself for the overall insurance cost increases. You know, Tesla's had a big impact. A lot of the electrification market has had a big impact with battery swaps, expensive body panels and glass. These have all had big impacts on the cost of living, and the cost of living is having an indirect impact to the way people are buying. And so yes, we are seeing the overall market slide. Slowly, very slowly sliding. We're seeing much less of those market adjustment fees, which should never be happening, but they are. And we're also seeing the overall transaction prices drop. We're seeing increase in inflation price, of course, the rate of inflation. And we're seeing, even though there's more transactions happening, the average transaction price is going down, which would indicate that it's a combination of incentives taking a hold, as well as some of these OEMs looking for lower cost alternatives. They're trying to sell the Mavericks versus the Lightnings. And so people are looking for a cheaper price point. They're getting into the smaller SUVs. I've even seen this lumberjack guy that normally you'd see driving around in a jacked up diesel 4x4 driving by in a smart car. So people are making different choices just for the sake of staying alive. With the cost of living increases, it's real. At the end of the day, it is a buyer's market. Things are changing. It's going to get better for the buyers if you have that money. If you can drop 20 to 30% down as a down payment. If you can stay above the heavy interest rate charges. And if you keep yourself at a reasonable cost of living. So don't exceed 10% of your daily gross or your monthly gross for the car payment that you just bought. You do those things and you're going to put yourself in a good position, or just fix what you've got. Keep it running as long as physically possible, and that'll make it all better. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, everybody. And more importantly, please do subscribe to the channel. Trying to build the channel up. I really am here to help each and every one of you. Hey, if you want to give it a look, what's going on with GM? They've got some big problems. Hope to see each and every one of you in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.